My name's Jonathan Mirren, and I'm with PT Theater Company, and we're excited to present The Everlasting Gobstopper by Christopher Janke as part of the 7th annual Great Greenfield DinoFest. And Christopher Janke, as some of you might know, is a performer, a visual artist, and a local business owner. And I met Chris maybe, I would guess, 5 or 6 years ago at a training. He was helping our nonprofit become better at accounting as part of the Community Foundation training program. And then later he helped me when he was with the Franklin Community Development Corporation, so I feel sort of grateful to him. And I was particularly grateful when he said, oh, you know, that DinoFest thing you guys do, I have actually a show about deep time. And like, he was the first person to ever say anything like that to me. So that was a nice surprise, and because it's hard to find, frankly.
Deep time?
Deep time. Shows about deep time.
Oh.
As far as I know, like, we've got a show, but we did that one, and now we're doing shows about local history. And if you want to see the movie we made about local history with some of the kids that are in the audience, that's going to screen on Zoom tomorrow at 7:30. But anyway, without further ado, Christopher Janke and the Everlasting Gobstopper.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. There are a few people straggling in, and if you haven't already gotten a lollipop, I recommend it. It's not a required part of the show, but it's recommended. There are two kinds of lollipops. There's the Charms mini pops with a paper stick, and there's the off-brand blow pops with a plastic straw.
Wait, I have some surprises.
I'll take questions at the end. I don't mind some interruptions, but there will be some time-sensitive processes going on in which I'll need to focus down onto what I'm doing. Thanks to Jonathan and the PT Theater and to DinoFest for doing this. This is something that when I heard of the DinoFest and I had been doing this performance for a little while, I thought, oh, this would be a natural collaboration. So I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And I also learned a bit about local history just by being a part of some of the promotion for this. I did not know about Lucy Terry or Bijou Prince before this. And I had always thought that Phyllis Wheatley was the first African-American poet, but here Lucy Terry beat her to the punch, I suppose. So that was really interesting to learn about. Thanks to Lava Center for hosting it. I'm going to talk for about a half an hour, and then we'll do a brief Q&A. To whatever extent I have A's for your Q's, we'll see. Maybe I don't. And then Paul, local geologist, is going to make a presentation about armored mud balls, and he and I will maybe answer some questions together. I will probably defer all actual questions to Paul, who knows things, opposed to me. This lecture came out of some explorations I was doing in 2016, and I had an art project that I called the Watching Club at that time. And the Watching Club was a group of people who would get together and bring a chair. You had to bring your own chair, and you would sit and watch. That's all you did. And we watched things like a convenience store for 2 hours. We watched a graveyard. We watched public transportation. And the inspiration for the Watching Club was that I had been to art museums and had seen photographs of very mundane activities that were lit with just the natural light of the mundane activity. And I was having a profound experience with these photographs. And I said, well, why don't we cut out all the middlemen? We don't need the museum or the photograph or the frame or the photographer for that matter. All we need to do is sit and watch. Can we, as a group, make the beautiful out of the banal just by sitting and watching?
Yes.
Great. We were able to at times, but here's the thing about the Watching Club. There were rules. You were not allowed to record it at all in any form whatsoever. You couldn't take a sketch. You couldn't write a poem. You couldn't take any notes. You couldn't take an audio or video recording. The only thing that remained of the watch after the watch was a list of what was watched and where. And some of these were simultaneously around the globe, with members who were not all synchronous in space, but it was always synchronous in time. And the experience of creating the Watching Club was also an experience in democratic formation because there were rules for the Watching Club, and then you had to determine who would make the rules for the Watching Club. And so we had a rules committee. We had to decide who was on the rules committee for the Watching Club, and how did you get to be on the Watching Club in the first place, and could you be on the rules committee without being part of the Watching Club? And we determined no, you couldn't be, because that would set up a potential totalitarian regime where you had people who didn't have to follow the rules, who were making the rules for the people who did have to follow the rules to do the watch. It became very convoluted. There were multiple pages of documents on how to form the Watching Club. Democracy is complicated.
Are you out of breath?
What's that?
Are you out of breath?
Oh, sometimes. Am I talking like I'm out of breath? I'll probably need a drink of water in a bit, that's for sure. But the one thing that the Watching Club did determine was it's not quite a mission statement, but similar. And it was, the Watching Club is an experimental democratic group that aims, for now, to pay attention, to what focused consciousness does of and to itself, and through practice, to make beauty with observation. To create, consume, and destroy beauty all at once. What that experience led me to think a lot about was the uniqueness of human consciousness and of 21st century consciousness. What a bizarre phenomenon. And to think about 21st century consciousness as having a history, as having predecessors. 21st century consciousness probably does not resemble 15th century consciousness, and my consciousness may not even resemble yours. I mean, I hope that it does to the degree that we are in the room together and that you are listening to me, but I have no verification other than some people are sleeping and some people are not. So not only can we not say why there is something rather than nothing, that great philosophical problem, but we can't even say why we experience the something that we think is there, or what contingencies led to the phenomena that leads us to experience the thing that we think is there. There's an entire history of things that seem unlikely to happen in order for us to be here. Now, as I talk to you, there's a 1 in 1 chance that it happens. It's 100%. I'm here, and you're here. But that doesn't mean that that was always going to be the case. So many things had to happen for this to happen. And the rareness seems to indicate that the chances of it happening are low. That our anomaly won't be repeated. This is a one-time thing. And it was never guaranteed to happen. Especially when we think about how long human consciousness has been around versus how long everything else has been around. Now, biologists will use the term of foraging for plants. Plants, with their roots, dig for nutrients. And plants, with their leaves, will forage for sunlight. And these are terms that some of the biological sciences use. So that may be a prototypical kind of consciousness. And Jane Bennett and others who are of the object-oriented ontology division of philosophy believe that all matter has a vital force. Not just living matter, but all matter. So as the rock, hurled from the cliff, heads towards the earth, it is expressing its desire to be one with the earth, just as the earth is rising ever so slightly through gravitational pull to be one with the rock. Who am I to say that's not the case? And I certainly agree that I am not the audience for the motion of the clouds around the earth, nor for the motion of the planets around the sun, nor for the motion of the solar system through the galaxy. This is not a performance for my consumption. So yes, plants may have a consciousness of some sort, but most of the time was before plants. So, I'm going to make a timeline. Find my marker. Oh, look where it belongs. We've been there. This is where we are, right now. What time? Anybody got time? What time? You got time?
7:15, 7:16, 7:17.
I'm going to go with 7:17 because that's what mine said.
It's 7:17.
Thank you. December 16th?
Yep.
Great. Where are we? Greenfield, Massachusetts?
Yep.
Eastern time?
Thank you. Eastern Standard Time, right? Because daylight savings time's over, which is why it gets dark. It's 2 in the afternoon. How many people in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 32. 32 people.
Did you count you?
I did count me. I didn't count the doll. Okay, 33. As it happens, we happen to be halfway through the lifespan of our star, the sun. It was born 4.5 billion years ago. And in 4.5 billion years, in the future, our sun will have consumed all of its fuel and will collapse into itself in a great gravitational force, sucking the entire solar system into it. It's a little bit in the future, 4.5 billion years from now. That will be long after our planet has consumed its own fuel and is a dead planet orbiting a dying star. Now, there's a hard timeline to consider. Psychologists say we can't even consider, 1,000 years, and here we are, 4.5 billion years. But I don't listen to psychologists. So we're going to go all the way back to the bang. 14.5 billion years ago. And for symmetry's sake, we're going to go forward. 14.5 billion years in the future, where the best of science tells us that the forces of matter and dark matter and their gravitational pull will be insufficient to fight against dark energy, and that the universe will expand ad infinitum into whatever a universe expands into, forever and ever. Now, it might be the greatest understatement ever spoken in this room to say, on a timeline like this, some stuff has happened. Let's mark some of them. I'm going to divide this timeline, call this 500 million years ago, put a 250 in here. I'm also going to throw a 65 in here just for fun. So that makes this a 500 million years. That makes this 4 billion years, and that makes this 10 billion years, give or take a billion. In this timeline, I'm going to take questions in a minute.
It's not a question.
Oh,
It's something to put in the 65 billion.
oh, we're getting there. I promise you. Right here, between 300 and 400 million years ago, Pangea was formed. Now, we all sort of know that our current continental structure, the 7 continents as we call them, which are sort of separating and getting closer together in different parts around our globe, is not the original continental structure of our globe. Prior to this continental structure, there was another one where all the continents were together, and we call that time Pangea. What we probably don't think about very often is the fact that there was a time before Pangea. Pangea itself was formed. And when Pangea was formed, over 100 million years, these continental structures came together and through great compression and great uplift created the highest mountains that have ever existed on our planet, higher than the Himalayas. They were created 400 million years ago. 220 million years ago, or thereabouts, Pangea cracks. That giant landmass starts to separate, and water begins to come in between the plates. And as that happens, a new body of water forms. There is one ocean, and there begins to become another ocean, which we now call, after 220 million years, the Atlantic Ocean. other things have happened on this timeline. What's your name?
Evan.
Say it again.
Evan.
Evan. Evan, what happened 65 million years ago?
Oh, 65 million?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant 65 years ago.
No. Oh.
I have no idea what happened.
Oh. Well, there's a very famous event that happened 65 million years ago.
Dinosaurs?
A giant bolide hits what is now the Yucatan Peninsula and creates such catastrophic destruction that 80% of the species on the planet are wiped out, most of them being the dinosaurs. The only dinosaurs that survived were ones, as far as we know, that were ground burrowing, and they were hidden from the catastrophic atmospheric effects where glass rained down and where photosynthesis ceased for maybe more than a year because of the great dust storm that went up into the clouds. So the plants died, the herbivores that ate the plants died, and the carnivores that ate the herbivores that ate the plants died. Yeah?
And all the, like, in the water, too, they survived, like sharks.
80% of the species on the planet died, yes. Yeah?
So, you're talking about, like, when the asteroid hit?
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of million years ago, a ginormous asteroid hit Earth, and some Earth came up and made the moon.
Oh, yeah, that I don't have on my timeline. I'll put it on if you know the year. I don't know the year. That I think is probably in this realm here somewhere. But I don't know. But this is called the KT extinction event in 65 million years ago. The funny thing about that event, as catastrophic as it was, is that that is not the biggest extinction event in our planet's history. 250 million years ago, there's the Permian extinction event, the largest extinction event. Again, 80% of the species on the planet died. Another interesting fact is that these are not the only two. 400 million years ago, there was an extinction event. 440 million years ago, there's an extinction event. 200 million years ago, there's an extinction event. In every one of these, 80% of the species on the planet died. And every one of these extinctions is brought about through cyclical phenomena. Through a bolide hitting the planet and causing great atmospheric uproar. Through climate change, often brought on by the biology that was thriving just before. The biology begins to create such a flourishing environment that it consumes the resources upon which it depends, which creates a biological catastrophe. But just for 80% of the species. The other 20% then get to flourish. Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, hand in the table.
No. Do you have a question?
It's something. So hold on. How many times did you make an X there?
I did 5 so far.
Then,
Why don't you put one right in the center?
We're getting there.
So
Zip.
400% of the species have died over the years that I've seen.
400% of the species have died over the years.
Yeah, I calculated it. Because 80 times 5 would be 400.
Yes, that is an interesting way to do that math. I like it. I'm not sure what to do with it. So this era here is called the Mesozoic era,
Oh yeah.
right before the Permian extinction.
Can I try?
I'm sorry, right before the KT extinction in here. This era is called the Cenozoic era, the era we're in now, from 65 million years ago until now. This is the age of the mammals. Mammals finally had room to flourish because the dinosaurs were gone. This is 65 million years. We got 33, 16, 8, 4. I'm going to expand this timeline. We got 4 million years. Call that 2, call that 3, call that 1. 4 million years. This is when the first hominids appear on our planet. Hominids. upright walking mammals. Now we've all seen, or those of us who are old enough have seen the picture of the ape eventually standing more and more erect into a human. That's not how it works. That's not how evolution works. It doesn't work in a linear progression. It's not a tree, it's a cloud. And these hominids would come from one branch of biology and then collapse, and then another branch of biology and die off. And they came and went for almost 4 million years. And it's not, this is 1 million years, that's 500,000 years, 250,000 years, and right about here, somewhere between 200 to 100,000 years ago, the first Homo sapien appears on our planet. Homo sapien, you and me, kid. It's not that long ago, considering all the stuff that has happened.
How many years ago again?
Between 200 and 100,000 years ago is the best number that we have right now.
And like, when did that like, I know cavemen, those humans, did that count?
Yeah, that counts.
Okay, so like, when did the civilized ones come?
I don't know, we're still
They
waiting.
haven't got
I'm collecting your popsicle sticks. If you haven't given me your popsicle stick, not telling you that. Will you pass that cup around a little bit?
I
Collect the
already
popsicle
gave you
sticks.
a stick. That was her
I'll take another one if you want to give me one.
Yeah, and that's popsicle, please. And
I'm gonna duck under my-
I know that the two broken ones came from me.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I'm actually going to cut them up a little bit anyway.
So you did a
So I've got to duck under my my table here for a second.
We can see.
We're here because of the DinoFest. And we're here because the Connecticut River, this is my drawing of the Connecticut River in our area, travels like this. This is Route 2. This is the Gil Montague Bridge. And over here is Barton Cove.
I know both.
Barton Cove, did you know it was called Barton's Field before the dam? It's true. And back when it was Barton's Field in 1835, they were excavating for the sidewalk right here, right across the street. And Dexter Marsh found a stone that had these bizarre prints in it that looked like bird prints. And Dexter Marsh set it aside, showed it to James Dean, and James Dean eventually got the attention of the state geologist, whose name was Edward Hitchcock. And Edward Hitchcock took some time to examine it. A few months. He wasn't that interested. His state geologist, he's interested in oil deposits and gold deposits. These are the things that geologists are up for. Don't go stealing my sticks now. They're mine. This can disappear for about...
With the gum, we
few
can
seconds
see you
here.
though. The plastic's here so we can see you. Everything you're doing. Now look at this.
Do you have interstitial music?
Why are you putting water in another bucket?
Well, I'm pouring water in here because I'm making a chemical reaction.
Oh.
Don't make,
And I'm under here so that you guys don't get exposed to the little bit of dust that's going to get in here.
please don't make elephant toothpaste.
Elephant poop?
Toothpaste!
Elephant toothpaste. I don't even know what that is.
It's like big pens.
I don't even know if elephants have teeth.
Of course they do.
Elephants do have teeth. Elephants toothpaste is like a foam-like thing that is created by a chemical reaction.
Oh. Oh, and it foams up a lot?
Yeah, big foamy snake.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that in videos. I've never made it myself.
When's the chemical reaction?
Well, this chemical reaction is exothermic,
Exothermic?
so that means it gives off heat. But not a lot of heat, just a
Wait,
little
is
bit.
it, well, there's something called devil's toothpaste that is like, not like, it's a lot like elephant's toothpaste, but it sets stuff on fire. It's like really extremely hot. Hard enough to like burn your hand.
Ew.
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 You have a glove on.
Yeah,
Is that the reason why you had gloves on?
that's the reason. Although I'm going to put some more gloves on for the next step I'm taking too.
You should have just kept those gloves on.
Well, they were kind of gross. Did you see how covered in goo they were? Now, when they found these prints in the stone, this was 6 years before the first use of the word dinosaur. And Darwin is still on the Beagle.
That's a ship,
That's a ship.
not a dog.
That's right. You're good. I'm glad you're here.
Oh, I'm glad I'm here too.
And it's 4 years before Darwin publishes The Voyage of the Beagle, the book based on his trip. It's 25 years before he publishes the book, The Origin of the Species. So they call these Noah's Ravens prints. They're not dinosaur prints. They're Noah's Ravens prints. Edward Hitchcock, the state geologist and who was the founder of UMass, spent 30 years studying the fossils from this site and from sites nearby. More than 100 fossils came from this site. Many are in the Benesky Museum in Amherst College. Some are at the Pecumtuck Valley Memorial Association.
And he's still here?
He's dead now.
He's been dead.
But the Pecumtuck Memorial Association is still around.
Are there any more fossils maybe?
Oh yeah, you can go see them yourself if you're lucky.
Under the...
There's one over right here in Gill, Massachusetts. There's one you can see buried in the ground. There's a nice walking tour you can do.
Oh.
Edward Hitchcock spent the next 30 years of his life being a kind of local rock star, pun intended, and he
Do you need the spit from that?
needed to reconcile his faith with what he'd found. Because what he found in these rocks, he knew, happened long before the Bible. And what he found in these rocks happened way before anything mentioned in the Bible. So he spent the next 30 years of his life wrestling with his own understanding of history and religion and the cosmos. Yeah?
On my grandma's house, we think we have a fossil there. It's like a big rock that looks like it has a footprint in it.
Oh, awesome.
And Mom, my dad's house found some fossils.
Our language uses a metaphor of space to talk about time. When we talk about moving through time, we talk about moving forward. Sort of makes sense. As I take a step forward in space, I'm stepping into a time that used to be the future at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
However, there's one well-studied language in our world, on our globe, where the metaphor works the other way. The future is behind. And I think this kind of makes more sense. As we look out in front of us physically, we can see lots of stuff. Just like when we consider the past, we know what's happened. But when we look into the future, we can't see. And so every step into the future is like walking backwards.
But now you're walking forwards then.
So every day, you're walking backwards into your own future. There will be an after, just as there was a before. Geology doesn't stop because we're in the 21st century. Stars don't stop because we're in the 21st century. If I accept, as I think I do, that all of this stuff has happened, well, I have to accept that some more stuff is going to happen. So I've started wondering what happens next.
That's in there. Oh, popsicle stick.
Yeah.
Is that pen? Yeah.
That's the Gobstopper right there.
The what?
Gobstopper.
That.
Stopping gobs.
It's a god.
The name of this performance is called the Everlasting Gobstopper.
I think it's gonna like peel off all like popsicle stuff still on. It's still on.
I've been wondering what happens if something, this is a cross-section of the Connecticut River. There's sediment, sedimentary rock, and it turns out that deep down under the Connecticut River is a fault.
The what?
A fault where two large masses, continental structures, came together and fused. What happens if we put something here embedded in the silt in the Connecticut River? How long would it last? If we wanted it to last 250 million years, what would we need to do for it to do that? Well, it turns out that when these two plates fused, there was tremendous uplift. The Berkshire Mountains and the Pelham Hills were created in the formation of Pangaea. They were the largest mountains ever to exist on our planet. They've been eroding for 400 million years, which is why they're so soft now. Taller than the Himalayas, taller than any mountain that's ever existed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, how do you know that?
Oh, I like the skepticism. Well, gravity's on.
Oh, there's gravity in
So I'll take questions later, and I have vetted most of these facts with geologists, including Richard Little. Paul and I checked in a little bit about my history, and it turns out that running right through the Connecticut River is something called the Eastern Border Fault. That is this structure. 200 million years ago, that fault started to separate, but it's a failed fault. And another mountain range was created called the Holyoke Range, that's right. That is when all of these came. As Pangaea is breaking up, is when the Holyoke Range is created. 200 million years after the Berkshire Mountains were first created, the tallest mountains ever to exist on our planet. So what's going to happen as we move forward? Well, it turns out that the Atlantic Ocean, for a period of time, will continue to expand. This is a fault east of us, between here and Boston. And this is the Atlantic Ocean, and it will continue to expand for between 50 and 100 million years is the best guess that geologists have.
Do you need another popsicle?
I'll take it. But after that 100 million years, the continents will start to come together, and they're all going to come back home. Africa, Europe, and North America in particular will all come and fuse together. At that point, there will be tremendous uplift right here, and our area will become a new mountain range.
What? A new one.
With our object buried in the sediment around it. After some time, there will be erosion.
What is erosion?
Erosion means, have you ever watched when water runs down a mountain and washes away the dirt on the mountain?
Yeah.
That's erosion.
I've been learning about that in first grade.
See, I'm not full of complete nonsense.
Wait, no, it was in second grade. Yeah, in second grade. Yeah, in second grade.
In second grade. Okay.
Yeah, in second grade,
Is
I
that
was
your
learning about
concoction you created under the table?
It is.
What?
Is it still excess garlic?
A little bit.
No. It
would be gross. Just so you know, it's fake cement or something.
Not fake cement.
I mean, I said it's like cement.
It is cement.
It's cement.
Yep, I made cement with them.
You did?
I know this is
So what
way
would
over
our object need to survive that uplift? Well, it's going to need a whole bunch of layers of really strong compressive material. Stuff that can withstand thousands of pounds per square inch.
Kind of like the thing you're making right now.
Kind of. And it might need some layers that are like the wear layers of, the wear parts of an automobile or of any kind of machine. A layer that breaks away on purpose to protect what's inside. Or like a tearaway jersey on a football player, so that when the defensive player grabs the shirt, he ends up with just the shirt and not the ball.
What do you make?
A gobstopper.
What is a gobstopper?
Gobstopper in the literary tradition is a fictional piece of candy that takes so long to eat that it becomes a problem for the character who eats it in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
But the Willy Wonka brand of candy, which does exist, does make a gobstopper, which is a candy you suck on. That's called the everlasting gobstopper. That doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
This is to be digested by somebody else.
Like me.
Well, if you like cement, you might enjoy this. It turns out that our planet is going to undergo a whole bunch of temperature cycles as well. The Milankovitch cycles happen every 100,000 years. And at the peak of the Milankovitch cycles is are temperatures like we have now. The trough of the Milankovitch cycles are temperatures that we call ice ages. As it turns out right now, we're at the peak of the Milankovitch cycles. We should be headed slowly over the course of the next 40,000 years or so into a trough. But it turns out our planet seems not to be cooling. Due to human activity.
According to some people.
Well, I'm going by the best science I could find.
Are you
Now-
not actually able to eat that?
I'm not able to eat this. This is not for human consumption.
Who is? I am.
Science is
It's cement.
Here's a wet cement.
It is.
But the scientists tell us that even with human activity disturbing the Milankovitch cycles, they're likely to return to their normal cycles, the 100,000 year ice ages, in about 500,000 years. So just 5 cycles.
What do you make thousands? I know you're making a gobstopper.
I am
but
making a
Yeah.
gobstopper. So
What is a gobstopper?
if we're to take a look at our timeline here,
Why are you making it?
It's his performance.
because you came. 4.5 billion years ago. If we divide this evenly, that's 2.25 billion years. Let's call that 1 billion years, 500 million years, 250 million, 100. So right about there, the border of our line, that's when global warming ceases and the temperature cycles return to normal.
So how many years is that?
We're going to call that 500,000 years.
Oh,
It's-
wild.
Now, it would also need to withstand other cyclical features that we've mentioned already. We've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extinction events already on our planet. That means that there are likely to be at least 3 more extinction events between now and 250 million years from now, where 80% of the species on the planet will die.
Hopefully it's not as species.
Well, and the fact is that right now, we're in the midst of the 6th extinction event, as scientists call it, created by human activity. We don't yet know if 80% of the species will die, but the Oxford study for the future of humanity gives us a 19% chance of dying in our own extinction event, if we exclude global warming. If we include global warming, the chances are much higher. I'll take some questions in a minute.
But and how many years would that be about?
now.
That's now.
Now.
190 million years ago, rain fell on the shores of what's now the Connecticut River. organic matter flowed down onto the little divots that had been made by the rain, and then some sediment layered on top of that, and more organic matter. And then it was compressed, and eventually it was excavated by the folks who excavated the dinosaur prints. And this rain, the evidence of the rain, is now hanging in the museum, the Benesky Museum of Natural History at Amherst College, both in the positive and in the negative. So for our object to survive, it might just need careful placement. We're going to place it far away from humans into a portion of this fault, this failed fault, where it's a few 100 feet deep in the Connecticut River, where the sediment can land on top of it, and it can continue to get buried until the uplift happens and our object appears at the top of a mountain after a few 100 million years of erosion. Well, the concrete needs to harden. The concrete were already hard.
We can't eat it.
I think that I would ask my parents about that, and I would hope that I know the answer. And maybe there'll be a final layer on the very outside of this Gobstopper, a thin layer that would break away in a mere 75 to 100 years to represent the lifespan of everybody in this room.
Maybe.
There will be an after, just as there's a before. We are not the audience for the motion of the stars, for the motion of the planets. There'll be an after me. There'll be an after us. Us in the room. Us in the species.
Wait, which extinction event was the first?
And we're also not the audience for this object, which now contains a little bit of everybody in the room.
Okay, then cut off my dance.
It's a sculpture that will shed its layers over the next 250 million years. It's headed into an unknown continent, a time capsule from our time together, or a gravestone, to a place and time where there'll be nobody to receive it. Any questions?
Back to the extinction thing. I counted all the X's with the thing, but I did not put the big X in the middle. But it would be 640% of the people.
That's a
And
remarkable
if you
percentage.
include the middle one, if you include the middle one, it would be 720.
Yeah.
There's another way to think about it. So if these extinction events are happening, right, and every time you lose 85%, if you get enough of them, virtually all of the types of animals that have ever existed have already gone, right? Like whatever's happening now is a small percentage.
Another question.
Dad, when you were talking about it raining, was that the last time it rained there?
Oh, absolutely not. It's rained there. You are funny. No, but I think it's remarkable that if you go to the Benesky Museum of Natural History at Amherst College, you can see the drops, the indents that drops of rain made 200 million years ago. I find that pretty stunning.
He's your dad? Wow.
You've got a bunch of questions. You've had a couple questions, but why don't you go ahead next?
Are there any Band-Aids?
That is a great question that I can't answer. I brought some cleanup materials, but not those kinds. Are there any Band-Aids? Okay. And I'm happy to transition to the next part of the evening, where Paul's going to show a video about armored mud balls, which have some aesthetic relation, I'll say, to our object. And he and I can answer some questions after that video, or I'm happy to answer some more questions. Yeah?
Are you gonna put those 2 layers on that?
That's like the final layer that I think will last maybe 75 to 100 years. So, yeah. Yeah?
Where will this go? Are you going to throw it into the deep abyss of the river near Burns Cove? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple of holes there that are about 200 feet deep.
Right on.
Yeah.
They're gonna fill it up?
Yeah.
How are you gonna do that? Scuba?
No, I'll just rolling off the boat.
How do you know it's gonna go all the way down there?
I don't, it's a good question. The depth of the water surrounding some of these holes is not very deep. It's maybe 20 or so feet deep, and then you'll suddenly get a pit of 200 feet or greater. So I suppose we could dive down to 20 feet and make sure it hasn't caught an edge and sitting on there.
Yeah, if you've got a fish radar, you can tell if you're.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sign it?
He did. He did sign it. He did.
Y'all signed it.
Oh, your spit's not in there either?
Mine's in there.
Oh, it is.
Oh, wait, yeah. This is all the
Yeah. You had a question?
Is that how you made us eat the popsicles?
Yeah, it wasn't that tricky, was it? A lot of people are like, wait, what are you doing? Are you taking my DNA? Well, yes, I am. You shed it all the time anyway. You're just giving that stuff off all the time, as if you don't even care about it. Yes?
Why are you taking our DNA?
I'm gonna take my silly performance hat off for a second and answer as if there were a Q&A with the artist examining his own work. The reason I'm taking your DNA is so that you feel some kind of strange attachment to this object and to the lecture that I've given and to the time that's coming.
So we're
Didn't
gonna be
work.
back, so we're going back to the future in the little Gobstopper, and we'll show up like we've been cryogenically frozen.
Well, the fact is that I'm not kidding when I think there'll be no one left to receive this. This is, the beginning part of the talk, when I talk about the uniqueness of human consciousness, I believe that. Not everybody does, so maybe there'll be someone, 250 million years, really? Someone's gonna be there? I don't think so. But even if there is, they would have to get the DNA out of this what will be a very solid ball. The epoxy that I embedded it in itself is very resistant to liquids, chemicals, all sorts of things. So those of you who are concerned about, somebody excavating this and cloning you 250 million years in the future, I mean, it's possible.
Hey, I can do it.
Yeah.
I don't think the AI is going to care.
No? Yes.
How about a round of applause for Christopher Janke? He'll be back with Paul